King of the Table 13 on the 14th of December. We have the Colossus that is Brian Shaw versus the Beast Eddie Hall in their first ever professional arm wrestling match.
You must be so happy you managed to convince me to make an arm wrestling video.
Firstly, I am. And I'm looking forward to this match. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, the Strongman connection is what we've got going on here. This whole card is a great card. The main event is Levan Sagnashvili, who is the greatest arm wrestler in the world, against Jerry Cadoret. Interesting match. He's got an interesting style, which could make for an interesting match. But we are obviously focusing on the strongman aspect here, in that we've got the 4-time winner of World's Strongest Man in Brian Shaw, arguably the greatest strongman of all time, versus the one-time winner, but potentially the strongest, static guy that we've ever seen in the sport, in Eddie Hall, clashing in this epic match. I know there's a lot of buzz about it in the strongman world. There's a lot of buzz about it in the arm wrestling world as well. I've been very much getting into arm wrestling the last couple of years, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah.
Not so much from Auntie Liz, but I am excited. And obviously, we need to make a video about this.
Of course.
So, to bring Auntie Liz in, we've been looking at a few facts about the two in terms of their head-to-head strongman competitions that they've done in the past, as well as their strengths that we think will be beneficial when it comes to this match.
So as you can see on the board, we've got a few facts and stats about Eddie versus Brian. So first off, height comparisons. Eddie is around, he's billed as 6'3", maybe 6'2", and Brian is one of the taller athletes we have in our sport, anyway, 6'8". Weight is very hard to say. These types of guys fluctuate quite a bit. I've put 190 for Brian. We know he's been he's been over 200 kilos, hasn't he? But regularly competing in strongman, at least over 400 pounds. Eddie, at his absolute biggest, closed in on that. Yeah. He was closing in on that type of weight too, but I put him around 160. So if we have a little look at Eddie's career first, then he's got 3 international competition wins. The most famous, of course, being the 2017 World's Strongest Man. He's the winner of UK Strongest Man. He is 5 times Britain's Strongest Man. And probably the thing he was most famed for, of course, was being the first ever man to pull 500 kilo in the deadlift. And if we take a look across to Brian, he has 27 international competition wins. He was a 4-time winner of World's Strongest Man, the most recent being in 2016, and a 3-time winner of the Arnold Strongman Classic. Both with quite different careers and trajectories and pathways through the sport, but like you said too, incredibly talented athletes.
Absolutely. I mean, Brian is without question one of the greatest that we've ever seen in the sport of strongman, and just a little bit like we see with Mitch Hooper now, didn't really have any weaknesses. He was very well rounded. He was ridiculously strong, but athletic, could move well, ridiculous grip strength, which is going to be relatively beneficial when you're coming into arm wrestling. Eddie Hall, on the other hand, a lot more static. He actually worked hard towards the end of his career to get a little bit faster and more athletic, but he was all about brute power in terms of shoulder power, leg strength, tricep strength, the back strength. He was just an absolute beast. And it's interesting when you think of them kind of coming head to head in arm wrestling terms, because where are those strengths going to be beneficial and what strengths are less beneficial? I know for me, getting into arm wrestling, the leg strength is really non-applicable. I was known for my leg strength. Doesn't help me in the slightest when it comes to arm wrestling. However, I had relatively good grip. That's been beneficial, although grip strength for arm wrestling specific is very different to strongman as well.
Okay, because if you were just comparing those two grip-wise, Brian wins every time, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, I was looking through some of their head-to-head events that they've done in the past. I mean, in their head-to-head against each other, Eddie only has the one victory.
Yes.
So he beat Brian Shaw at the 2017 World's Strongest Man, where Eddie won, Brian Shaw was third, but before that, 6 times in a row, Brian took the win head-to-head. Is that a factor? I know it's a completely different sport, but sometimes when someone has a one-up on you, it is difficult. And Brian has been doing arm wrestling properly longer than Eddie has. Eddie's almost on this fast track along with Neil Pickup. Neil Pickup is, again, probably the best arm wrestler the UK's ever had. So someone that's super respected in the sport of arm wrestling, very knowledgeable. He's got him, in his corner, helping him every single week. Brian has had people like Devin Larratt help him, other people as well, but he's got more of a core, stable group of guys that he's listening to. I actually think that could be beneficial. I think at this level, neither of them want things to be overcomplicated. No. And just, again, from my own experience, I've had the last 2 years properly in arm wrestling. And when I started, I had a lot of people trying to give me advice, including top guys like Neil, Devon, I met Michael Todd, other guys. And they've all got their own style, so it becomes a little bit confusing.
A bit overwhelming.
And you're almost better just kind of sticking with a good group of guys that teach you the basics first. Mm-hmm. I think Brian has a bit more of an advantage in that, in terms of he's been doing the fundamentals for a bit longer. The group that he's working with seem to be focused on those. He seems to have developed a really good top roll, which is, again, beneficial for his longer arm and huge hand size. Eddie's strength is his strength, his tricep strength, his shoulder strength. It looks like his sort of tactic is to try a press. Mm-hmm. Now, a press is a very effective move in arm wrestling, but also very risky and very dangerous for someone that's new to it.
Which is why Eddie wants it, because he's that kind of guy.
He is that kind of guy.
Balls to the wall.
Oh, he's balls to the wall for sure. And, if he could catch it, he's got so much power behind that. But the thing with arm wrestling is not just the muscular strength. You've really got to get the elbows and the tendons developed to those type of movements.
The connection.
Yeah, getting it all connecting. You've been listening.
It's been unavoidable.
And I think that's where at the moment he's going to fall behind somewhere like Brian. Brian has a few fundamental advantages. Take it like in terms of like deadlift strength, squat strength, pressing strength. Eddie has actually lifted the most weight out of the two of them. However, when it comes to that connection and the advantages for arm wrestling, height is a huge advantage, and Brian has a very long arm. He also has a massive hand, which is another advantage.
Easy to control.
He can the strength. It's easier to control, and also it's just hard to do much with. Eddie's hand is not small by any means, but Brian's hand is massive, and the higher he can get onto Eddie, he's just going to kind of get over the top and disconnect all of Eddie's strength. And if he does that, I think it will be quite an easy win for Brian. Eddie's going to need to kind of get to the straps and get in as hard as he can and kind of cause Brian issues in the setup. And maybe someone like Neil in his corner can help him with things like that. But it's, for me, I believe if I arm wrestled them both now, Brian would be very hard. Mm-hmm. I think I'd beat Eddie, watching what I've seen.
Okay, interesting.
Just from my experience in the sport in the last couple of years, the level that I've got to, I am no pro. Okay, well, I have turned pro actually.
You are.
I am a pro now. But in the grand scheme of things, I am no pro. Okay, I am new to arm wrestling in terms of competitiveness, but I do train with some very, very good guys, and my understanding of where they are and where I am is developing all the time. My understanding on the table is developed all the time, and the specific strengths for arm wrestling develop slowly. You do get these freaks that can kind of just jump in and be amazing at it, and Brian maybe is one of those guys.
Maybe.
He's looking like he's improving very, very quickly. I saw his recent training match where he made a bit of a mistake in the first round in the setup, and that's so common if you've never had a proper ready go, and Eddie hasn't yet, where he just kind of let his wrist go back at the start. You've got to try and cheat as much as you can in that start, or when I say cheat, you've got to try and get as much as you can. Yeah. You don't want to give away positioning straight away, and that's what happened in the first round, and he got flash pinned. After that, he was a lot better, and he actually took the win. And both of them are so strong that if they do things wrong, it's going to catch them out very, very quickly. If one of them can be quick off the go, that's going to be beneficial. But their strongman strength doesn't always correlate to strength on the table. And I've found that, as good as I was at holding on to bars, as quick as I was at moving with weights, as much as I could squat and deadlift, those type of strengths don't really help. You could take everyone in the arm wrestling. I've trained with Devon Lowrett.
Yeah.
In the gym, I'm going to beat him at almost everything except the arm wrestling specific movement. So that's where arm wrestlers are so, so strong. And they are genuinely strong. A lot of people think arm wrestling is just technique. There's a lot of technique, but there's a lot of specific strength that you need for that specific sport. And that's where they're both trying to develop right now. Who do you think is going to win?
Oh, if I had to put money on it, I'd probably put it on Brian. Yeah, I would put it on Brian.
I'm going to put it on Brian, and I'll tell you why. It's nothing against Eddie. I think Eddie's a phenomenal athlete, and he does take things seriously. However, Eddie's got the shortest prep for this. You know, to get good at arm wrestling in 8 weeks or whatever he's given himself is a very, very small amount of time.
Yeah.
Plus, at the same time, he is training for a fight. So he's putting all this effort into training for a fight, plus doing the arm wrestling as well.
It's a lot.
I think the body is going to be taking a beating from that. Brian is all in on the arm wrestling, and he has been for a while now. You look at his gym, he's kind of just bought every bit of equipment that he needs. He's got Devon going over there. He's got a good crew that he has, that he trains with regularly. Seems to be making progress in terms of technique as well. If I was putting money on it, it would have to be on Brian at this stage. Eddie's a guy that commits to everything 100%, fantastic at what he's done. But you have to say, with the advantages that Brian Shaw has, cannot see him getting beat.
So King of the Table 13 is going to be on the 14th of December. It's going to be live stream pay-per-view on Core Sports. So if you want to watch that, I know Loz will be watching it with bells on. I might be out. No, I will watch that with you. I will.
Good.
Yes. And then I'm going to provide the link in the description below. You're very excited, aren't you? You're very animated talking about arm wrestling. It's nice.
Strongman
it's nice to see
and arm wrestling get me going right now. It just used to be strongman, but now it's almost more arm wrestling. I love both.
Used to be his wife.
Well, that's but yes, I think Mitch said it best. I'm a broken old strongman, and arm wrestling is the place to go. And it seems to be with Brian and Eddie coming over as well, and a few others. But arm wrestling is one of those sports you can keep doing for much longer. Yeah, guys, the link is in the description below if you want to get the pay-per-view. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.